Welcome, everyone, to episode 31 of the Movie Bros podcast. If you're new, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. If you stumbled in, don't stumble away. If you are new, this is a podcast where two brothers, this is Duncan, he's Hayden,
I'm here. Hello, hello.
pick a movie, watch a movie, discuss and kind of ramble about said movie. These episodes range anywhere from 30 minutes to around an hour or so, give or take. That's kind of where I think we found our rhythm at.
Usually so. Depends on how much we have to say.
It's straight true. And there's a couple different little segments that we do that you'll kind of find out along the way about. We cover everything from comedy to romance to action to a little bit of horror to drama.
Today we got some science fiction.
Yeah. And if there's anything you think we should be watching, you can reach out on Instagram at @themovie_bros, I think. I haven't said that one in a while, so I don't even know if that's accurate. Or Amazon or Apple Podcasts, or also Spotify, which is most likely where you found this. Anything else you think I should add, Hayden, at the top?
I believe we've covered all of our marketing checklists. We can run past our team later after the episode to see if we've missed anything.
All right, and like both of us kind of referenced just a second ago, this is science fiction. This is electronica in its more cinematic form. What are we watching this week, Hayden?
So, as Duncan said, we are watching Tron Legacy, the sort of reboot, definitely a sequel, and this released in 2010. This is directed by Joseph Kosinski, and you'd know him from things like directing Top Gun Maverick,
He's done a ton
Oblivion,
of stuff.
and the upcoming Well, yes
Well,
and no.
he's done-
He's done a lot of good stuff, but he's
Mhm.
only done like 5 movies, and this is his literal first movie. And for a first
Mhm.
movie, that's pretty good. This is written by Edward Kitsis and Adam Horowitz. Music here is obviously by Daft Punk. Cinematography is Claudio Miranda. This stars Jeff Bridges, Garrett Hudland, Olivia Wilde, Bruce Boxleitner, Michael Sheen, and a cameo of Cillian Murphy. The trivia I have for this week is that the stunt coordinator on this is David Litek. I'm never understood how to pronounce his name,
Mhm.
but he would also become a director a couple years later. He would make the first 2 John Wicks, the second Deadpool, Bullet Train, and last year's Fall Guy.
Which, hey, good for him for, I feel like, getting the opportunities to do so.
Yes, and I like that he's kind of built his own production company based off the fact that he doesn't want to be replaced by CGI, so he hires as many stunt people as humanly possible.
And speaking of the cast, I can think of one person that you could probably replace, and it'd be maybe a similar performance, but I'm glad the cast is the cast it is.
Well, okay, so expand upon that. Who would you replace?
First of all, I would just say that I'm like, uh, Jeff Bridges just has one of those voice, like the first over, like the
Oh, yeah, he could narrate any book, and I would probably want to listen to it.
yes, the whole bit about the grid. If you listen to the
Mhm.
soundtrack for that, it's again also him, and it's fantastic.
Yes.
But I don't know why.
It's one of my favorite soundtracks in probably the past 2 decades. It's
Mhm.
awesome.
And yeah, you can listen to this at any time, just chilling. If you're, I actually find it's a really good like workout playlist because it's
I can
got
see
the
that.
right amount of tempo to it. But sorry, I got distracted. But so Jeff Bridges,
We do that here, it's fine.
he was in the original one, and obviously I think that's why he is in the sequel, not just because he's a great actor, but I could see if they did like an older Kurt Russell. I don't know why I've always clumped those two guys together because I feel like they're kind of
I mean,
similar.
they have, like, super gravitas sounding voices. I mean, I can see that.
They're both kind of
I
westerny
don't think it
kind of
would make any
guys. No,
sense,
not at all. I'm just saying, like,
but
if like halfway through production or something, Jeff Bridges died or something, I feel like they could have used Kurt Russell.
sure, sure. Well, I mean, do we wanna do ratings? Do we wanna jump into just generalized discussion? Which do we wanna do? What are we feeling?
I don't know. What do you think? I feel like I made a decision last time.
I think last time we saved our ratings to the end. Why don't we switch it up and we start out that way, and then we can explain why?
Well, have at it.
This for me is a solid 4 out of 5. I think there are some things that haven't aged fantastically, and there are some things that I wish were pushed a little bit more. But on the whole, this is a pretty damn good movie. Even if it is essentially a 2-hour long music video, I'm okay with it.
You say that, but like there are some parts that feel like a music video, but I don't. I never really got that.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just because my memories of this are so heavily just the music because that's what I listen to pretty consistently, but it's kind of ever present. There's no scene that doesn't have some kind of sound going.
Which I'm not complaining, but yes,
Oh, absolutely
when
not.
you put
No.
this next to like well, what was that? Bone Tomahawk that has basically no music. Yeah, it's pretty jarring comparatively. Like those are
God,
the more you.
that was only like 2 episodes ago and it feels like it was like 3 months.
That was more like 3 or 4 at least, which is about a month because we did, like, A Real Pain,
Mm,
Master and
yeah.
Commander, like, we've done several movies
Oh
between.
god, you're right. Yeah.
Either way, I'm trying to pull up my letterbox to remind me what I rated this, but
You don't just have like a generalized Word document filled with like word vomit like I do?
well, I do, but, I gave this a 4. If I was really pressed, maybe I'd give it, like, a 3.5. Because again, it's very fun. Most of the things I have
I
to
also
most of the
thought
things
3.5 as well, but I'm like, "No, I enjoy it too
yeah,
much."
that's just it. I was like, most of the things I have to say about it is all positive, but there's never, like, it never feels it's not a very, like, heavy movie,
Again, I think we're gonna probably share a lot of the same opinions here. That's kind of my issue with
which
it
is
too, is that,
okay.
like, it doesn't feel like the story takes any risks,
I mean, not
which, again,
overly.
maybe that's not what we're watching it for, because clearly this is in some ways, it is a technical showcase for the visuals.
There is danger in things that happen, but, like,
Well,
eh,
I guess that's not what I mean by, like,
then what do you mean?
risks. I mean, like, you can kind of see where this ends when it starts. It doesn't really do anything narratively that feels unexpected. It feels like the safest way that they could have done this plot.
Well, yes, but I also see, like, oh, there is clearly, like, change that happens in the characters, both of Jeff Bridges, realizing what his son means to him, but also the whatever uh the kids I can't think of his name, son of Flynn, uh
Sam,
Sam, thank you. He like accepts like letting his dad go kind of thing. And then
I mean, he kind of doesn't. It's literally just Cora pushing him out of the way.
I mean I mean
Depends on how you look
okay,
at it,
I
I
don't know.
guess.
Anyway, so I think there is still emotional movements in this movie. But yes, it does feel maybe it's because it's in a digital world where it doesn't feel as real. Maybe that's why the stakes don't feel as up there.
I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at too. It's like I was never worried that they weren't gonna make it. Like the whole point of we got to get to the portal. Like, yes, I know they're the good guys, and Disney doesn't let the good guys not win. But in any of the action sequences, I wasn't ever worried that it wasn't gonna go their way.
Sure. No, I get that. Like, yes, all the B characters are probably gonna die, but yes.
Sure, I mean, but that is a super minor complaint. I mean, like, oh darn, you gave me a super enjoyable movie that I don't really have to think too much about while I'm watching. What a shame.
And on the flip side of this, I think I'll probably reference this several I mean, I've got, like, a page and a half of notes on this, but, uh, yes, it's
Really?
very easy to watch, very enticing, very fun. I felt like again, I'm just reading my notes from top down, which is basically as the movie goes. If I felt
Yeah,
like
same
it,
here.
especially since it came out in 2010, before I feel like this is before really all the like superhero stuff kicked off and everything else like that.
I have a paragraph about this too.
Oh, I felt like it because it was all digital. I felt like it kind of recaptured, or I felt like it captured like the imagination of for like the 21st century. Like uh, I don't know if it felt. I'm sure
Well,
I
absolutely.
wrote this down probably a little bit farther down, but I can imagine if this was 2010 and I saw this in a theater as a kid, oh my god, dude.
I mean, I remember seeing this in theaters as a 17-year-old and it's still being fucking mind-blowing at the time. Because you gotta remember, this was before the MCU really took off.
Mhm,
Like, I think the most similar thing I can point to is maybe the Snyderverse stuff because it came out of nowhere
mhm.
and it looked so different
Yes.
and it reinvented a lot of what we could expect from a superhero movie in the same way that, like, I remember seeing, like, the initial teaser footage of this being released and then the whole rolling out of the practical light cycle at
Mhm.
that year's Comic-Con.
So
I
cool.
still vividly remember seeing that. Like, the amount of hype that this had leading up to its release, we kind of don't see anymore.
Well, and because it's yes, it's technically an existing IP, but it's
I
been
mean, at that point, it had been, like, 20 years.
exactly, and they addressed it in the movie that it's been 20 years, and there was a
Mhm.
clear up jump in, like, I mean, the technology to make the movie, so that's why I mean, it looks so I mean, if you look at the original Tron, oof,
I actually rewatched it last weekend just to be like, "Okay, is there anything here worth talking about when we talk about this
sure.
week?" And boy, does that movie suck. I'm
I've only seen a scene or 2, and every time I'm like, "What? How did they"
Look, I get that this was, like,
Sure,
groundbreaking at the
sure.
time, and so maybe if I was in, like, the early '80s and I had never seen anything like this before, I could maybe forgive how incredibly boring that movie is. It is so bad. Like, it that doesn't hold up well in the same way that this does.
Exactly, so where this is it's groundbreaking at the time, I mean, even especially that motion capture stuff for the younger Jeff Bridges is pretty good.
Yeah,
I mean, well,
well,
I'll there's a couple more thoughts I have on that,
we'll get
but,
to it, we'll get to it.
all
Yeah.
the, like, the technical advances are, I think, well balanced with the actual, like, narrative of the story, like, it's not just,
Mhm.
like, the movie sucks, but it looks pretty. Like, the movie is not no, it's not amazing, but it's pretty fun, it's pretty good.
I mean, it's not perfect, but I feel like again, my whole issue was that they don't push some of the narratives to be a little bit more interesting. It's Disney. I don't know what people were thinking was going to
Exactly, that's
happen.
also part of it too.
Like, if this was maybe a different studio, sure, but Disney in the 2010s, this was the biggest thing they had done in decades.
Yeah, which, again, I don't have a lot of high hopes, to be honest, for the Ares whatever
Uh,
the Jared Leto, which it seems like such a weird
d-
choice.
I don't understand why studios keep casting Jared Leto and not understanding the public's
Yeah,
complete lack of interest and
mhm,
hostility towards him. No one likes Jared Leto. He won an Oscar once, like 10 years ago,
yes,
and then every studio executive's like, "Oh, we got to put Jared Leto in our film. That will get people to watch it."
mhm,
Didn't work for Suicide Squad.
or Morbius.
Probably won't work for this or Morbius. Like, granted, he wasn't the biggest problem in any of those productions,
No,
but he was a problem on all of them.
yes. I feel like it's very iconic. You will see this obviously, it's from this movie, but you can see this on any, like, film, like, clip that anyone on, like, Instagram or TikTok or whatever has made. That first cut of, like, the bicycle to motorcycle on the freeway.
It's so clean.
It's so clean, but like, that is I mean, everything works perfectly for that. Does it make me absolutely want to ride a Ducati, uh,
I
bike?
mean,
Yes, 100%.
I feel like if I've actually been looking at maybe getting a motorcycle
What?
because 'cause they're cool, but, like, I'm clearly I haven't done it, I just think it'd be fun. I wouldn't start with a Ducati, I feel like I'd fall off and kill myself.
Well, yes, a lot of this, I'm sure, is, like, professional drivers doing it, not actual Garrett Hedlund.
Well, actually, we don't know that. He
That's
might
true.
we hear all the time of people doing the Christian Bale thing of fully committing and learning how to do everything, so it is technically possible.
There is
Speaking of Christian Bale, though, my one gripe about the acting in this, I don't like the voice that he uses in this. He constantly talks under his breath, and he sounds like he's trying to sound like Batman Begins era Christian Bale. Everything sounds like this. I gotta grumble. I
I
gotta
don't
sound
think so,
dramatic.
because I've seen him in other things, and he still sounds like that, Hayden. I think that's just his voice.
I mean, Maybe that's just his voice, but I remember seeing him in some other things, and he didn't sound. I
There are
feel like
also
there are
parts when I
some
think he raises his voice and you clearly hear that he's
sometimes. I don't know. It just to me his performance in this felt subdued to try and sound cool, but maybe that's just my take.
when he parked the bike and he gets off, he takes the helmet off, his hair is already perfectly gelled and spiked. I lit
I
I
noticed
literally
that.
wrote, "How much gel is in his hair right now?" Like, how can
I
that be
mean, who knows
comfortable?
that it's not just a makeup application because it literally never changes style the entire movie.
I could see if they left this. I mean, I feel like they could have left this open, but maybe they'll address it in the next one, but I feel like they sort of hinted at Cillian Murphy building up to be, like, an actual bad guy. He was such a throwaway role, and I'm like, "Oh, they could have had him, be the next Clue or whatever."
Well, I mean, I remember even watching this in theaters, being completely baffled. Even then, was like, why? Why is he here? Why did we have to have a cameo for no reason?" I'm like, because he had just come off of doing Batman Begins. Like, what's the point of this? Is it just because we can, do the Peter Griffin meme and point and look at the screen, and say, "Look at Cillian Murphy"?
I yeah, because even how, like, they portrayed his character, like, he had this, like, foreboding, like, "Oh, he's the one at the company really pulling the screen."
He had some boy band hair in this, to be
Well,
fair.
not even that, just I don't know, just the what he brought to the both literal and not literal table there, it felt like, "Oh, they could have set this up as in the second or Tron Legacy 2 or whatever you wanna write it as, uh, he's secretly been building his own, uh, operating system or
Well,
whatever."
they also leave it open by, spoilers, even though it's,
It's been
you know,
15 years at
been
this point,
15
which is
years.
crazy.
And that's kind of why I'm worried that maybe we've lost the vision of what made this good between now and then. Regardless, at the end of this, they don't actually kill off Tron the character or Rinsler as he is in this one. Like they just kind of throw him into the ocean and you see him drifting into the abyss. Like they could easily just pull him out of the water
I mean,
for
yes,
for the
we'll
next one.
talk about this a little when we get to that point in the story, but they even reference about, oh, like, no program or anything can be destroyed, only repurposed, and then they literally show, uh, Tron changing from, orange back to, like, white. So,
Mhm.
yes, they clearly set this up like, "Oh, there could be easily more story to tell," which, again, I'm hoping, I'm really hoping that they don't fuck it up.
Are they bringing back the same directing team?
I don't believe so, no, because
I don't remember.
Kaczynski is doing F1, so he's definitely not doing it, which I'm actually
Let
really
me
excited
Oh
for that, to be
no.
honest.
They're bringing Joaquin Ronan.
I don't know who that is.
Uh, Made the most recent Pirates of the Caribbean movie,
Oh,
made the Maleficent sequel,
the sequel, but not the original? Oh, this is not sounding
and
so good.
he made a Daisy Ridley movie this past year called Young Woman and the Sea. That is not who I want in charge of this
Yeah,
at
that
all.
doesn't sound promising, but hey, keep in mind, the director of this was his first movie, so you never know.
I mean, yes, and we got lucky that he was good.
Mhm.
We've already seen Joaquin Ronan's. We already know what he makes. He makes crap.
Anyway, I
Sorry.
did like that they said, "Oh, the only difference in this one is we put a 12 on the box." I thought that was a nice little, like, Apple reference on how everything they do is just the same thing with just a new number. I thought that was pretty funny.
Well,
Even I mean,
that whole scene is just a dig at Apple. It's great.
even though again, that's 2010. Like, even, like, more kind of the same shit has happened in the last 15 years. They're on, like, iPhone 30 or some shit like that.
I'm not an Apple user. I wouldn't know.
Me neither. The bit where uh the dog video comes up, like, my dog intensely was just watching the screen, like, zoned in,
Oh,
which was kind of a nice
that's
little
funny.
tidbit. Something I think that we reference because it's Disney and because they have to make it "safe," quote, unquote, for families. When he jumps off that building, the time it takes to open that parachute, dude, he's
Right?
totally dead. There's no way he's severely injured from that. Parachutes don't open that fast,
Yeah.
like, remotely, like, that was instantaneous. Also, if I was that cop, I'd be like, "No, I'm not gonna climb up onto this, like,
Right?
the
Like,
fuck, dude?"
as a fellow overweight individual, that dude easily has like 30, 40 pounds on me. I'm not chasing you up flights of stairs onto a rooftop
Well, okay, I get chasing
as
to the
as as
rooftop.
as as like as like a security guy. There's no way in
No, I
hell.
get getting to the roof, but as soon as he's climbing up on, like, a crane, no, fuck that.
Just call the cops and go back to your desk. I mean, what are you gonna do? You don't have a gun. You gonna tase him and have him fall off the roof so
Mhm.
you can be sued?
I will say I don't know if it's on purpose or just something that I was looking for because I remembered it from the previous time I saw it, but when he lands from the parachute, he runs and eventually gets caught in the spotlight. It's
It's a nice recreation of the original poster. Very, very quickly though.
well, no, but what I thought is he's caught in the spotlight by the police, his hands are up, uh, and then when he first gets caught on the grid and gets caught by the sort of helicopter-y
Oh,
transport,
that's true.
it's a nice
That's
parallel.
true.
It's a nice parallel.
Well, actually, there's a lot of times that either the narrative like parallels the real world with the grid in some nice ways that I had forgotten that they actually did. Like when Clue, the evil Jeff Bridges clone, is giving his like
Oh, the
his dictator speech, he literally
mhm,
requotes the lines that they play the young Jeff Bridges giving at like some tech conference saying, "Oh, out there is our future, out there is our destiny," and then
mhm.
they have Clue repeat the same things back. I thought that was a nice
Well,
touch.
there's several points where Clue you can clearly tell he's only making these decisions because he is the version of Jeff Bridges from back then when he only has those experiences. So yes, his idea of the perfect system doesn't involve like a son or anything. He can't understand why Jeff Bridges would do anything for Sam because
Yep,
I mean,
I actually like Clue as a
I do
villain.
too.
He's just nuanced enough to where he's not just evil robot
Mhm.
character. I like that he has an understandable motivation. You can see him kind of trying to like in like the final bit where they're on that bridge. You can see where he's trying to like even in the dated technology of his face, you can see him trying to work through some emotions about I wouldn't know this because you didn't know this, but I still got to follow my programming. It's a nice back and forth.
All right, the house that Sam lives in on the river near I think it's
I mean, it's a storage
oh,
container.
dude, no, I would live there today. That is so dope. I love that
I mean, it's cool, but like it looks cold as shit,
well,
man.
yes, he probably spends a fortune on heating, but, like,
It's cool though.
A, I love the garage doors. I love the view.
Hmm.
I like the more open, like, space of it. I like that it was just subtle enough, but you can still tell that, he tosses, what's his Alan, the VP dude friend?
Yes,
I it's a
from the original.
yes, I wrote good old Coors because they were both just he just tossing one of those
I
very
did quickly
clearly,
see
like
that flash at the camera.
it's enough to know what it is, but it's not like, "Oh, this is the look at the camera, this is what I'm holding," kinda thing.
Mm.
I don't know really where I thought it along the way, but Garrett Hedlund never really became, like, the guy,
No,
and
he could
he could
have,
have.
and he feels like he might have been.
Yeah, and granted, he's still probably semi-young at this point. I mean, he's got a long career potentially ahead of him.
I mean, he is 40.
Sure, but a lot of people don't even get their start until they're, like, 40.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I
I
feel
mean,
like he could have
he's done
been
a lot of TV stuff.
yeah, no, I don't know, I feel like I was looking at him, I was like, "Oh, you like, a young, like, athletic, knows more or less how to act, like, has connections." I don't know, I feel like he could have been, like, the guy, especially with a movie like this is a big role to land. Because I feel like before this, he was fairly
Yes.
unknown.
I mean, he did Friday Night Lights and Aragon and some other like background characters in comedy. I think he was really young and he was in Troy, but
Oh, that's
nothing
right,
where
I
he would have
forgot he
been
was even in that.
recognized. Well, I mean, it's 2004. He
Yes.
would have been
He probably
20.
yeah, if that.
Well, I mean, he's born in 84. He literally would have been
Oh,
20.
yeah. Sorry, your point, though, that you wanted to get to?
Oh, I was just gonna say that I'd mentioned it in the offhanded comment already, but should we talk about the de-aged face?
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it at some I don't know, whenever.
Because that to me is the only part that doesn't age well.
Well, see, what I
And
so hi
for how much of a visual marvel everything else in this movie is, like that to this day sticks out to me as the ooh, we should do another second like special release of this and just kind of rework that face a little bit
so
because
the times
for 2010, yeah,
sure,
that looked great,
yes.
but I can think of video games nowadays that look more lifelike.
Well, keep in mind, A, it was 2010. B, the first bit where you see it when he's telling the story to Sam at bedtime, they purposely really don't show his face as much as they possibly can. But
Sure.
the next time that you see it, it is in world on the grid, which means it's a everything's digital anyway, and it's digital from the time that Flynn made it. So I feel like the not great, like if it was perfectly perfect, I feel like you wouldn't be able to tell that it's not uh Jeff Bridges. Like actually I'm glad that there's some distinction, and I actually
I mean, I
glad
I
that
I
it's
guess it
I
does it
like
does work in universe,
exactly, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I think it makes
but
sense in
I don't
universe,
know.
but no, yes, you could make this look better, sure, I understand that, but I think it actually works because it shows that it's well, it shows that clues
It
from a
does work
earlier
for a
time.
narrative reason. That's also true.
Because
That's also
if you
true.
look at Clue compared to any of the other programs in the on the grid, like the bald-headed, like, henchman
Well,
dude,
the lackey,
yeah, he's
yeah.
crystal clear. But he was obviously from much later, like, Clue was, like, the first thing. That's why he looks not as good. He's an earlier model if you wanna say it that way.
No, I mean, I guess that makes sense. I'll buy that as like a narrative explanation. Let's see, what else do I got?
This is a
Um,
movie where, I mean, among other things, the lighting is paramount. Every shot,
oh,
every
it's
costume,
fantastic.
everything. I mean,
And there's actually a lot more physically made for this than I think people realize.
yes,
Like
I remember
all of the suits.
we've seen the behind the scenes, and if you've ever seen this or are going to see this, it is definitely worth watching the,
I
like,
mean,
how they make it.
wait till you've already seen it though, because you don't want the
Well,
illusion
sure,
ruined.
sure.
But like, it's super interesting to go through and see how much has actually been physically done. Like, most of the environments are actually there. They've just been extended and enhanced with CG.
Mhm. Like, there's the
Um,
part when he, after I mean, maybe never mind, I'm jumping ahead.
Duncan, we can jump
Oh,
around.
no
It's
no,
okay.
I'm looking at my document, and I am going to misplace something and not say something I wanna say, so I'd rather stay
All right, all
linear on
right, all
that.
right.
Did you notice the one time that Daft Punk is not playing?
I mean, were they playing Journey in the arcade?
Yes, just, I just again, because I always
Well, I
thought it
mean,
was
yeah, yeah.
always Daft Punk, I had never really noticed, like, oh, there's, like, 2 '80s songs, and, I mean, I don't know,
Well,
it's a
no,
fun little mix-up.
I think it's just like
Arcade music.
it's there. Well, I mean, one, it's arcade music, but it's to remind you of the '80s, and you know, pop rock anthems from the '80s. That's definitely gonna do it.
But yes, back to the lighting, because again, this is my next point. Uh, even like the silhouette of the game at the end of the hallway that like the secret door closes behind him, but it's still a long shot looking in at the like the console. I don't know.
Oh, the cinematography in this is really nice.
Yes. I do feel like the because yes, almost. I mean, I'll reference this probably 3 or 4 times, but uh, there are so many points where you could pause this, and this is like, oh, it's hard to tell. Is this concept art or is this the real deal? Which I think is super cool.
Because oftentimes that doesn't happen, and it's almost like, oh well, why is the concept art look so much better
Mhm. No, because
than this? And like, no,
it's
this just looks like the concept art with
yes.
actors.
But what I don't know if I love is in the armory scene where they're, like, putting the suit on him, the 3 chicks or sorry, 4 chicks. Uh,
It does feel like there was less thought put into
well,
that.
A,
Like
less
design
mhm,
wise, it's not as interesting
but I also felt like it was kinda spoon feeding some very, like, quick data about the grid of, like, "Oh, this is how your disk works, this is if you lose it, blah, blah." Like, I felt like they coulda used
I mean
like, actual experience to show that somehow instead of just, like, really quickly, "Here's this thing, go and fight in this arena. Okay, bye."
sure, but I feel like with how pacing stopping some of the dialogue sections actually are, I'm glad that they just kind of clip through that quickly so we can get to the arena
Well,
section.
yes.
Because granted, you could do the arena section and then you can just have like, either Jeff Bridges' version explain that to him later, but then we were going to miss out on other exposition
Mhm.
and that'll feel rushed.
The part that I didn't wanna jump over to get to this linearly in my thought process, but after he's armored up or whatever you wanna call it, when he's walking up the ramp towards the arena where it's just literally just a wall of light. Ugh,
Yeah,
dude,
it's a great
th
fucking
there's
shot.
so many fucking cool shots, god damn it.
Well, it's just like the really quick scene where it's the I don't know what you call them, but it's the big carrier thing landing and
Yes,
it's and where he's first been
yes.
captured and it pulls out all the way and you can see three little dudes standing in front of him.
Mhm.
You got all the smoke blowing all over the place. That's very, very cool.
This did make me think, look, again, this is when he's getting all, suited up, and then the first bit of the arena games where everyone's got slightly different coloring and everything. I feel like throwing a, Tron-themed party where people, like, really committed would be so sick. Like, have it be like a blacklight party, everyone's got, like, tubing on
Yeah,
them, all, like, Daft Punky kinda music. I think that'd be so sick, dude.
sure.
I was like, "Okay, New
Well,
Year's
okay.
2026, maybe I do that because that's fucking awesome."
Well, okay. Let, let me ask you this. Look, you're thrown into the grid, you're going into the games, right? Let's say you can pick your colors. What neon colors do you want?
Oh, no, I'm a white
And you
boy.
can't pick red.
White.
I know you're a white boy, but what's the
No,
color
like, I
you
would pick I think the color that looks the nicest is white.
see? I kind of want to go with green. I think that'd be cool.
And, like, the minty kinda green? I don't know.
Yeah. So I mean, like, in the same way that the white is almost like super light blue, I think a super light green would also look pretty cool.
Well, I wonder because again, this is some of the stills that I've seen from the newer one that hasn't been released yet, but, like, the red.
Oh, where all the armor looks like freaking motorcycle
Yes,
padding.
yes.
Ugh.
The red, though, in the newer one looks is such a darker red, I feel like. Like,
It
the
doesn't look as
yeah,
bright.
the Tron Legacy stuff has a lot more light to it, um, but I wonder if yeah, you could play around with, I mean, any color, yellow, uh, purple, pink, I mean, whatever. But I feel like,
Mm,
especially in this movie itself, the amount that they use of, yes, there's clearly like the good guys and the bad guys, but then just the different shades of like the red, all the different shades of orange that they use on their like different like holodecks, and then like Jeff Bridges' house, all the whites and the grays and the blacks, the cushions. We'll talk about the that his spot space a little bit later, but I like that there's a very, yes, it's very kind of cut and dry of this, these are the good guys and these are the bad guys, but I think it works well aesthetically.
I think it's a simple choice, but simple doesn't mean wrong. It just means it's it's the most easily identifiable
Mhm.
by the audience, and that's okay.
I thought Rinslers or or Tron or yeah, or Tron, however you want to think about him. I like his helmet is so much more uh, curved and angular, where it comes to a point at the
Yeah,
bottom. His costume is also
I
much more just black. There is not a whole lot of lights on him.
and I don't kind of love that. I kind of wish that he looked a little bit more distinct. Like, I mean, yeah, cool. He's like the black
Yeah, that's
assassin
I think
outfit
that's the
guy, but
vibe they
like
were going
I don't
for, to be
know,
honest.
do some more interesting stuff. Give him some more bumps on his arms or something. I mean, I don't know. Like he just kind of looks like he's in black spandex, which to be fair, he
I mean, they
is.
all
But
are in Black Spandex, yes.
I'm aware. I just when I look at Sam's outfit, or if I look at Clue's outfit,
Well,
like
sure,
I don't know,
they are
do some more
a
interesting stuff.
well, they are the main characters, but they're also the characters with like actual speaking lines and can emote.
It's true. Speaking of fits, though, that like that robe thing that Clue is wearing when Sam is first brought out of the games and he's talking to him in the like that looks fucking awesome. Like he completely reads as a villain, but he looks fucking cool. Like he's got the whole mask and he's got the like side robe with the light. That looks so
Well,
cool.
again, that's one of the main things that I also am a big fan of this movie is just all the costuming, not just the cool like Tron suits, but like even older Jeff Bridges' robes that he wears to the club. Go back to the
Yeah,
club.
I like that it's kind of like an inverse of
Yes.
Clue's stuff. Like you can tell that they're connected, but they're kind of like the yin and yang thing. Again, it's a simple concept, but it doesn't mean it's bad.
Yes, I mean all of chorus stuff, all of the lights, even like the robe that Sam steals from like the homeless dude and trades him for the bike.
Oh, with the giant fucking
Yeah,
hood.
we're like, I don't know, it's just there's so many different ways that they could
Yeah.
have like made this too complicated and they didn't.
So
Along
something that ties into that
Go
is
ahead.
that Joseph Kosinski, the director,
Mhm.
was actually an architect first.
Oh,
So
interesting.
he helped design a lot of the way that this movie looks. And
That's really
so
cool. I didn't know that.
that's yeah, so I mean, that's why things like this, as well as things like
Oblivion?
Oblivion, which I think you watched
Yes,
recently,
and it's great.
he also helped design a lot of the way that movie looks. He likes being both the director and having a hand in the art direction if he can.
Interesting.
Which also, yeah, Oblivion fucking rocks.
Okay, I would say it's pretty good. I wouldn't say it's like amazing, but it's pretty good.
I mean, it's not amazing, but for the time it was out, it felt like a return to non-serialized science fiction.
Yes.
Like it wasn't,
Yes.
it didn't come from an IP. I like that it's self-contained and still interesting.
Mhm. I will say this also plugs right along. Like we were 40 minutes in, and I was like, "Oh, it feels like it's been only like 15 minutes." Like
Yes.
that's the trade off. Where like, yes, they give you some quick exposition here and there, but like I think it works really well timing wise.
Well, it's like I had forgotten just how fast the opening section clips by. Like the whole thing where he's on the bike, he's at the
Oh,
tower,
it's
he's
fast.
jumping off the tower, he's talking to Bruce Boxleitner, and then he's back into the grid. That's all like 10 minutes. Like that is a feat of editing and pacing.
I know it's not the director, or maybe it is the director that does this, but that is something I also noticed about Oblivion, about Top Gun, and I'm hoping it runs the same way for F1, but all of them, there's not a whole lot of fluff. It's exactly what you need. There's a very good like things move along, and it's not that there's big action scenes every single scene, but
But all the action sequences like are good and you need them.
exactly again, it's everything you need and nothing that you don't.
I mean, some of the bar scene in this, or the end of Line Club where they talk to frickin' what's his name? Michael Sheen,
Hmm.
feels a little bit towards fluff, but like it's enjoyable enough to where I don't really care. Going just because the whole conversation with his character doesn't affect the plot really.
I mean,
It just kind of pads it out.
yeah, it pads up more of Korra's
But
character.
very true, but also you get that freaking awesome Daft Punk
Oh, we'll talk
soundtrack
about that. We'll
just
definitely talk about that.
bumping along
Yes,
to a pretty good action sequence.
yes. I do like that the whole when they first put him on the actual grid on the light cycles, and the like lackey dude gives that big presentation of Clue, and he's like, "Oh, I
Mhm.
hope I did well, master," or whatever. And he's like, "Oh, it wasn't meant for them." Like it's clearly like this is all just bait for Jeff Bridges to come save his son because it's
Yes.
yeah, which like he's like it could not literally matter any less if people like this or not, or if Sam lives or dies. He literally just wants Jeff Bridges there.
Well, it's just like I so then when they track him back to Jeff Bridges' like house,
Hmm.
I really like that like he seems mad, Clue does, that Jeff Bridges' character doesn't seem to be mad at Clue. Like he just seems to be living a chill Zen life, living with Cora, and the dude seems angry that he isn't as obsessed with Clue as he is with Jeff Bridges.
Well, I think it's the whole obsessed with the perfect system as much as he is.
Yeah.
We jumped over well, we jumped over the entire, like, them on the light cycles on the grid bit.
Okay, okay. Fine, fine,
That's
fine,
a
fine, fine.
pretty fucking dope scene, dude. I'm just saying, like, yes, I wanna talk about the house, but, like, he jumped over this huge thing. Because that was the first time where they showed, I feel like, the right amount of slow-mo. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they only use it, like, maybe twice in the whole movie.
Yeah, it's only a few times, and it's usually just to show, like, the manifestation of a vehicle, which is usually pretty dope.
Yeah, that's true. Like, the whole scene where they got Clue jumping into the air and the bike forming as it jumps over, like,
Mhm.
that that is maybe the most iconic shot out of the whole movie is that.
There's a bit where, Clue is coming around the curve on his bike, and he uses his uh,
Oh, and he's, like,
yeah,
scratching his disc
like, the
against the ground.
grind on the turn. Oh, it's
Oh, that's
so
cool.
fucking dope, dude.
Like, it's completely unnecessary, but it's very cool.
And then this is when you first really get introduced to Olivia, and I should say again, this is 2010. This is before I feel like her career and kind of more mostly her personal life had some turmoil. And I know I don't want to dissuade from her performance in this because I like her in this. I think she has the right amount of naive, like
Well,
almost.
I think at the time, she was still doing House.
Was that really the thing that yeah, I was like, I can't really think of what else she would have been in at the
In
time.
2010?
Yeah.
Probably.
Hmm. Either way, this is kind of your first introduction to her. Uh, and I love that the like her car vehicle, whatever you want to call it, the 4x4 like buggy.
Well, like, and it, like, switches out of several different designs of car.
Yes, it's rugged, but it's sleek. It feels like it. Yes, it's meant to be in this universe, but it also feels like it's so very clearly separate from the like classic light cycle.
Well, I like that they made the distinction between the grids and the outline,
Yes, the
like,
Outlands. Yep.
because originally, everything was the grid, but I like that there is a physical manifestation of the fact that Clue and and, uh, and Kevin Flynn are different,
Hmm.
and that, um, Flynn's literally living in a cave, and Clue is in this, like,
High rise
tower looks
tower.
like it was
Yeah.
made by Apple.
Now that we've actually gotten to their hideout in a cave, I know we referenced this already, but the lighting. So there's a point where they step onto the elevator, it rises up, and just when you think it's going to go to complete darkness, the elevator floor lights up. Just little subtle,
Mhm.
interesting choices that actually keep you like, oh, that was cool. Oh, what's the next thing they're going to do with lighting?
Also, that's all practical lighting. Like, they built the whole cave and then just lined everything with, like, reinforced
Hmm.
plexiglass and put lights every fucking where. Like, that's such a cool practical set. Like, I would have assumed at least some part of that would be CG extension, but I watched the behind the scenes. I'm like, no, outside of their big window area, everything there is real. That's so cool.
Which, speaking of that window area, there's the bit where just I think it's a little bit later, but I mean, again, don't want to jump too far ahead, but it's still they're in the same location. Is when I think it's when Sam has left to go to the city. Jeff Bridges is standing outside looking at the city, but like the like water reflection from his pool is hitting his face.
Very atmospheric,
Very
right?
atmospheric, and yeah, and I like both there, and I think it's when uh, they're near the bedrooms is when they have the little, like, side pools that, again, throw the light from the water on the walls that I think works really well. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, again, there's just so many interesting ways that they choose to use lighting, which I think is a big part of this, of why I like it.
So what's next in your timeline?
Now we're at the point of, emphasis on material, on textures that the programs don't understand. So literally
Yes.
what you were just
Uh,
saying. Yes.
yeah. Um, and it's this scene that we pretty much get introduced to, Quora or Quora, it's spelled with a Q, I don't know.
No, it's not, is it?
Quora,
I thought it was Kora.
yes.
Oh.
I'm almost sure it's Quora.
Well, that's dumb. Okay.
Nope, that's a search engine. It's Quora with a K.
That's it. I was like, "Are you?" Yeah. What?
Yep, that is Yep, that's a search
Okay.
engine.
Alright.
This'll be cut. It's fine. Um, I like that every so often they add a little bit of like auto-tune twinge to the end of her sentences to drive home the fact that before they reveal it later that yes, she is an isometric life form. I thought that was a cool idea.
Mhm. Agreed, agreed.
And the whole shot of her like sitting on the couch with her leg doing the far out kick thing while she's watching them talk by the fire. I think I had that as my computer desktop for maybe a whole year straight. Like one, she's very cute in this, but that is a just that's just a cool looking pose. That's a cool looking scene.
Boy, do they pump up her, like, cat eyes, though. Holy cow.
They both pumped up the blue of her eyes and then they drained all the color out of her body. So like she looks
Yes.
kind of like the white of her like LED light ups almost looks like her skin.
Mhm. I don't know why I wrote this, uh, but I wrote "Never not Jeff Bridges." I don't know, I feel like he always has a little bit of the, like, I feel like the dude from, Big Lebowski,
He
he always
does
kinda
kind
has
of play
a
the
l
same guy
I
now.
mean, not 100%, but I feel like he's always got a little bit of, like, the, "Hey, man," or, like, "You're harshing my mellow, man," like, just a little bit here or there.
Well, something that I would have preferred they do with the plot if they were trying to go with something probably a little less safe, if you will. There are moments in this where he is, you can see people like praying as he walks by.
Mhm.
He was referred to as the creator.
Yes.
There's, the whole, I'm gonna knock on the sky and see what answers. Like, I wish they would have pushed this into, oh, you're making me lose my Zen thing. I'm gonna become an angry god type figure by the end. So I have to like, I end up destroying the portal by myself. I kind of wanted them to, I don't know, maybe push that angle a little bit more if they wanted to do something maybe slightly more narratively interesting, but
Which
it's still fine the way it is.
yeah, yeah, I can see why they did what they did, but I also think that could have made for an interesting plot as well.
Yeah.
Did this come out?
'Cause, like, it's clearly hinted at, because he drops into that club scene, he puts his
Oh, it's
hands on the
so dope.
floor, it
So fucking dope.
drains all the lights out. Like, I mean, clearly he has some sort of superhero-esque
Well,
powers in this. It just
yes.
I was kind of hoping we would see him get to use them more as the movie went on.
I do like the line, "What's more imperfect than our world?" about how Clue's gonna wanna try to make our world perfect, but that would basically be eradicating
Mhm.
everyone.
I also really like his line delivery in pretty much the exact same scene when he's like, "Your good news is chaos."
Yes.
That's a great
Yes.
line. I don't know what else to say
Mhm.
about it. That's very cool.
Did this come out around? I didn't look it up before we started recording, but did this come out around the same time as True Grit? Because 'Cause I'll be curious, when did that come
Um,
out versus this? Because they are
yes, it came out the same year.
oh, really? Oh, good year for Jeff
So
Bridges. Okay.
this was nominated for an Oscar. It didn't win, and I was curious. Okay, what else was out that year that it was competing against? It was competing against Inception,
Wow.
True Grit,
I mean, good
um,
movies.
a couple other things that were big heavy hitters. I'm like, oh, that's why it didn't win Best Visual Effects because Inception. That's why it didn't win Best Sound Editing because True Grit.
Which is a shame, because I feel like it deserved at least something.
I mean, yes, and I feel like if maybe in a different year it probably would have.
Mhm.
Kind of like how last year, if there was a different movie other than Oppenheimer out for Best Picture, something else probably would have. I mean, obviously something else would have won, but like maybe it wouldn't have swept so much stuff.
Sure. I get it. I like how I feel like they coulda used it a little bit more, but I think it worked the amount that they had it was how Flynn dreams in this, like, kinda black and white memory,
Yeah,
which
he
was really
he he almost
cool.
dreams in like VHS
Yeah,
analog.
which was I thought was really cool, but again, I feel like they only used it, like, twice, and I just feel like they coulda I mean, just a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, because they use it when he's, sleeping in his house when they've snuck off to go to that club thing, and then they use it at the very
Mhm.
end, which we'll get to later.
I do think the light cycle that they like the more, like,
I wish we saw more of that. That thing looks so
That was
fucking
so
cool.
dope, dude. I'm sure they built like, I'm sure there's at least one, if not multiple, out there somewhere, but so dope.
I'm sure it is under lock and key at Disney someplace because I know that that's the thing that they rolled out at that Comic Con. It
Mhm.
was like, look, this is a real property. People lost their fucking minds, obviously.
Uh, yeah, I think the next scene is when they meet Michael Sheen, Zeus,
Yeah,
uh,
I think it is a bit of a staple of the sci-fi genre that you have to have a bar scene.
which
Like it shows up
I'm
everywhere, which is
fine with it,
okay.
yeah.
And I like that he is so zany and over the top when everyone else is so serious and hush hush and
Mhm.
oh I'm here to rule the grid and I'm here to save humanity. Like I'm here to fucking be weird and sell drinks.
Yes.
Which apparently they didn't really have to audition or convince him. They just said, "Hey, we're gonna make a Tron sequel. Do you want a part in it?" And he's like, "Yes, whatever it is, I'm doing it."
Yeah, I mean, I would say the same thing, but, there's a bit where right when I think the first bit of bad guys and Rinsler shows up, uh, he just does the, little head nod to the actual. I mean, if you don't know it's them, I feel like it's pretty fucking
I feel
obvious
like
it's
everyone
Daft
does,
Punk, yeah.
but yes, Daft Punk is literally playing
Yes,
themselves
he
as
exactly.
DJs during that
He
scene.
gives him a little head nod and it switches to the song. I think it's called Derezed is, like, the more well-known,
Yes.
uh and it's very fun, but then as you referenced earlier, when Jeff Bridges puts his hands down, the lights cut out, the song cuts out, the song switches to something with even more, like
So it switches to the
sure.
track End of
Yes.
Line and they start pumping the bass and
Mhm.
all of the they start doing falling down the scales whereas before they'd gone up the scales because literally they were going up a tall
Yes.
tower. That's very cool.
Which I know we referenced this, but I think as a fight scene, or actually overall, all the actual choreography when it comes to hand-to-hand stuff, pretty cool.
Yes, the fight choreography is awesome. I love that they use both their like light sticks, whatever those
Mhm.
are,
Like mini lightsabers,
and
yes.
their discs interchangeably. They're throwing sparks all over the place. I think it's a smart idea to have when people die they get turned into cubes
Mhm.
instead of showing blood, both because it works as a Disney movie for their rating, but also it works narratively because they're programs. I think that's a smart idea.
Yes, agreed.
And then you've got um freaking Zeus up there with his cane shooting lasers out as
Just
well.
for fun,
Very
yes.
cool.
Yeah, there's a wide shot where it's basically as far back in the corner as possible, so you get the full view of the club, of everything happening, and with Zeus above with a light stick, like, it just looks like a full, like, chaotic bar fight atmosphere, which I think works really well.
It kind of reminds me of The Last Jedi when Kylo and Rey are having their fight against the Red Praetorian Guards.
Really? How did I don't I mean, I actually really like that
Just because
scene, but
just
it
because
doesn't
it's
feel like it would be
I mean,
similar.
that's one of the handful of things I actually really like about Last Jedi, but that's a whole different discussion. What I mean is that it's a lot of chaotic energy that looks random, but probably was like
Incredibly choreographed?
months and
Yes.
months of just probably painstakingly choreographed. That like, yes, it looks like there's accidents happening. It looks like people are, like actually naturally
Of
fighting.
course.
But I gotta imagine this was probably like a year with some guy going through the motions as slow as
Mhm.
possible. Okay, I'm gonna throw a punch here. You gotta dodge this way because that's actually a pretty long fight sequence, all things considered.
What I referenced earlier about him always playing like a Jeff Bridges character, when he's like, "Oh, dad, let me fix this." And he's immediately like, "Dude, you're really messing with my Zen thing." I like that he's kind of meta, that he's like, "Yeah, I know I'm being this like kind of hippie dude."
Well, I mean, I like that too, but also I like that it feeds into the whole he's the Tron wizard, if you will, in this. He's kind of like Tron god, so I like that
Yes.
he's a Zen guy. He's mysterious and mystical. It works both ways.
And just as a like uh I don't know if it's him meditating, but it's also just like a gun cool line. Doesn't always have to mean anything for it to just be a cool line with the whole knock on the sky and listen to the sound. Cool sign.
Yep,
Cool line.
yep. Well, it's just like I think the whole scene where they're on the quote unquote freight train going
Yes,
towards,
the portal.
that is where it slows down the most when we get the most dialogue.
Yes.
But I don't feel like that ever feels like it's dragging because the dialogue is at least interesting.
It's at least interesting, but again, even that, it's not that much time. Like, yes, it slows down narratively. It feels like there's a little less momentum in that moment. Uh,
Oh yeah, no, that scene is like only like a couple minutes.
yeah, if that's more than 5 minutes, I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know why I wrote this down, but the mechanics of movement for vehicles is cool, but I don't know what I was referencing.
It's because it's riding a big light beam and it's using that as its energy source, I would assume.
Yeah, man, I don't know. Either way, um,
I do like that when we finally get to the third act and Clue is giving his like evil speech.
mhm,
I love the design of his ship. It looks like a big sword
yes.
almost, where it's got that rotating thing in the middle, and it kind of either extends outward past that, either to something that looks kind of like a gun barrel,
Well,
or
uh,
it's like a sword blade. Like it looks very cool.
Did it actually really reminds me of some of the ships from, Halo, actually.
Yes, because all the ships from Halo are literally designed after
Yes,
guns.
that's what it made me think of that. What I also liked was, when Jeff Bridges tries to take a ship, and he's like, "Oh, I'm taking this
He
vehicle,"
just fucking bonks him on
and
the
he's like,
head.
"Oh, yes, of course, right this way, watch your step." I'm like, "Yes, so yes, you're God,
Like,
but, like,
could we not just do that to Clue?
hmm, maybe not."
Like, I don't know, sneak up behind him, press some buttons, whack him on the head. Ah, the movie's over.
What I think this is a big thing that, we referenced last episode, so if you haven't heard it, folks, go back to listen to episode 30 on Master and Commander, but a big part that I like that this movie doesn't do, that Master and Commander also does not do, is put a bigger emphasis on a romantic storyline. Sam
I
and
mean,
Cora aren't really inherently romantic. Like, yes, there's maybe some charged
no.
energy between them, but, like, that's not the
I
story.
mean, it is certainly more than Master and
Well,
Commander in the
sure,
fact that
yes,
she's there.
but you get
But, like,
I like that that's not again, that's not the story.
I like that they don't kiss at all. Like, it kind of reminded me of the ending of Twisters, because they
Mhm.
could have easily pulled them into a kiss and then shot them up through,
Yes.
like, the portal at the
Yes.
very end, but I kind of glad that they hold off on doing
Mhm.
that.
Well, it's the same thing why I felt like it felt so wrong at the end of, the last Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, where Kylo Ren and, uh, Daisy Ridley just
Rise of Skywalker has so many
yeah, that
problems.
movie is hot garbage, dude. That movie's terrible, but again, that they're pushing a romantic narrative that doesn't need to be there. That's why, again, this movie and
Yeah.
because of it was just the last episode, Master and Commander, uh, they're not inherently romantic. It's just about survival. Like it's not. It doesn't take away from the story. It's making you sure you're focused on the thing that actually matters.
How sick the fucking visuals are.
Pretty much, yeah. Uh,
Which, is not a criticism at all.
no, but what I will say is, if you're a good guy and you're trying to blend in, I feel like when they steal that ship at the end, the ship itself immediately turns from orange to white. I don't know if they have control over that, but I'm like, "Oh, gee, which ship is the good guys that we're trying to hunt? Oh, maybe it's the clearly only white one." Like, "Oh, are the bad guys coming? I don't know. Is there like 7
Well
orange little fighter jet things following us? Oh, it must be them."
well, to be fair, we also mentioned this earlier about how, yes,
Which
it is ease of audience,
yes, I think it's a double-edged
but
sword for
I
sure.
did also have that thought thinking, "Okay, they're trying to sneak onto the base while he's giving his speech. Could they not choose to be orange, or is it more of like a moral alignment kind of a thing? Because it didn't look like they had any choice on it when they chose that plane.
Yes, agreed.
I think we mentioned it already. I do like how everything is slightly misty and slightly foggy. And I remember reading somewhere that the reason they did that is that one, it makes everything look cooler, but on a more practical reason, they had the thought of, well, computers like running when it's cold. They don't like to overheat. So our thought idea was that, okay, if this is all taking place inside of that computer in the Flint arcade, maybe it's kept as cold as possible. And so all of that is fog.
Hmm, I like that. I think that's a cool sentiment.
I mean, yes, maybe it's there primarily for design choices, but I like that you could explain it away if you wanted to.
Sure, sure. Uh, I only have a few more things to say because I don't have a ton to say about the actual like aerial battle, which is cool. It's very cool, but I don't have a ton
Um,
specifically to say about it.
I mean, me neither. Like, I mean, other than this kind of feels like the most obvious choice they could have gone with just giving it a big gun on the back of it.
Yes. Well, if
I mean, again,
well, granted,
it's for the ease of audio. It's still cool. It
and
just feels like you could have maybe chose something more weird.
I think it makes sense for if you're trying to make a plane like a plane that was in our world digitally, like a big
Yeah.
fighter jet like that, like a carrier would have like a back seat with like a rotating gun turret. Yes, it makes sense. But yes, it's not super
Mhm.
super interesting or different, but it works.
Sure. Well, it's just like I love the I mean, I guess I can't think of a more interesting way to say that. I love all the vehicle designs in this, from like the little like dragonfly wings that pop out of the guy's back after they're parachuting into the club scene.
Mhm.
I like the bikes, obviously. The planes are cool. The big ass, sword ship is cool. From a design standpoint, this movie is kind of incredible.
Both at the time and honestly still like if you had never seen this and you watched this today, I think it'd still be pretty amazing for most people.
I mean, again, the only thing that doesn't hold up,
To you,
even if it's for in-universe
sure.
reasons, even if it's for in-universe reasons, is Clue's face. But like, that's pretty small, all considering.
Mhm.
When you think about just how much is going on screen at any given moment, like it holds up incredibly well, and the movie's 15 years old.
Exactly. So I think we already referenced the whole Tron simply being reset at death, which means he's still open for potentially a number 2 or a 3. Uh,
Although they probably couldn't get the same voice actor because
Probably not.
granted, he doesn't have a whole lot of lines, but Bruce Boxleitner, who voices his friend, also was Tron in the original, so he did the voice lines for this. I think he passed away a couple of years ago, so they could probably just say, "Oh, he's been rebooted. He has a different voice."
Yes, which yeah, honestly they could also do. I mean, maybe this is something to talk about at the very end, but if they are trying to continue this storyline, which again, I don't really know what Tron Ares is going to be, but maybe they do have Jeff Bridges come back as a more villainous god figure.
Maybe, maybe. Well, it's like I also know that they made a 2D animated TV show about this in the years afterwards, but I remember people either really liking it or really not liking it. So I'm not sure if that's storylines from that they want to pick up. I don't know.
I do like, I mean, some of it's a little cheesy, but I think if you are just enjoying the experience and enjoying the movie, the whole like Jeff Bridges talking to his basically his younger self, which is Clue at the end about what matters. Uh, I don't know. It's a cool, especially where it's a shot of them on the bridge where it's the older self on one side and the younger on the other.
Oh, see, I don't think that's cheesy. I really like
No,
that
no.
scene. I think
Again, I like it, but
that's some of the better dialogue for those two characters.
uh, I like it, but I do think it's a little on the nose of like I don't know. I don't know.
See, because I kind of had the thought that this is sort of in the middle when it comes to either nuance or not. Because on the one hand, you have the J.J. Abrams Star Wars movies, which have some redeeming qualities, but are pretty blunt and pretty in your face and not super
Nuanced.
deep in any respect. And then on the complete opposite side, you have Denis Villeneuve's Dune movies, which are super philosophical and have a lot to say about political figures and are super like entrenched in Dune lore and have to do with world building. And I feel like this is kind of in the middle of that kind of writing, to where you get some of the blunt, I wouldn't know that because you wouldn't know that kind of dialogue, but you also get some of the whole, oh, freedom is chaos and I need to talk to the ISO. Like I think you get some of the lore building from a more Dune side of things, and I think this is kind of in the middle.
But just what you said earlier about instead of them like with the lighting and they're kissing as they get sent off into the real world. That's like the shot at the portal with him raising the disc at her like next to him.
Oh, it is
It's
iconic, and it's a really nice recreation of the
yes,
original.
I literally wrote shot at the portal, pretty iconic. Like it's I like that again. This is
I think they
technically
literally used it as the poster.
yes, they did. I like that this is technically a sequel. Some could call it maybe sort of a reboot, but I think it plays just enough homage to the original. Even though the story is a continuation, but it I don't know. I think that they did just amount of like we are doing our own thing, but also building off what was laid before us.
Well, I like that they took into account that, yes, this was literally 20 years later, that they did have to do a little bit of
Hmm.
backstory, but it's not so much so that it takes up so much of the movie that you constantly feel like you're playing catch up.
Exactly.
So I like that this took the right amount of balance there.
Yeah, I'm literally looking at the like box right now, the cover, where it's got old Flynn on the foreground, and then like and then Clue looking at the portal.
Yep.
Yeah, it's super cool. Like I don't feel like movies like this are made well that often anymore. Like all the reboots, sequels, and everything, I feel like they don't are given the
No.
same. Maybe it's just attention to detail, or if it's just all the right factors came together with directing and
Well,
music and everything. But
it's that, but I think that this was treated as such like a huge event. Even more so the fact that yes, it is technically a sequel to a movie that came out in freaking 84 or whatever, but like this was treated as such a huge like cultural thing that more effort was paid into it. So many sequels are put out now that it's kind of lost the special factor that this definitely had and continues to have.
yeah, there's definitely less. Uh, like like the whole even like going to a midnight premiere, I feel like is similar where it's just not really I feel like a thing anymore where like people would like line up at midnight or
Oh man,
that those it's
what's the last movie I did that for? I
I
can't.
can't think of anything. I'm sure there was, but I can't maybe a Harry Potter or something like that, but I can't think of anything.
Like, a midnight man,
Well, just
I think
like
maybe
the
Force Awakens.
having things be such an event. I mean, really, I feel like the last time that was really a thing was maybe Endgame. But other
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe Endgame, maybe the final Harry Potter. My final question to you is a hypothetical one. Let's say for Tron Ares,
is it Eris or Ares?
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
Tron Ares, they boot that troubled director out. They walk up to you and say, "Okay, what would you do? What do you specifically want to see in the next one?"
Hmm. Well, I don't even know if they need to make another. I don't really know what the story
I
would be
mean,
now that it's been another 15 years. Because yes, if they had kept at this within a couple years of the previous one,
there is definitely an argument to be made that they have missed their opportunity of striking while the iron's hot.
yes, I think that's 100% true.
So if they have to make another one, things that I would like to see, I would like them to explore the idea that if as established in this one that there can be fully forming life forms that don't have to come from programs, give us some kind of like animals. Give us like a
See,
Tron dog or like a
that
Tron
doesn't feel
bird.
digital though.
Like but if we're keeping the idea of the isometric life forms, that to me seems like the next logical step. And if you poured enough like visual ideas like they did for this one into it, it could be done well.
Maybe I don't know if that would be the direction. I think the ISO part is interesting, but I don't know if other non-digital things would be the way that I would go. But I do think I would have Cillian Murphy, like I said at the beginning, where they kind of referenced him as potentially a new bad guy, have him basically
Yeah.
crack the code and get into the system and have it slowly building it out as his empire. And then uh, Sam's got to go back in, and his dad is there as ghost form, giving him like notes along the way, being the Zen dad that he is. And it's Sam versus
See, I
Cillian Murphy.
like
I
that
think that would
idea,
be
but I
good.
feel like it would see, I think that would feel a little bit too much like this one. What if
True.
instead we still keep Cillian Murphy, but he cracks the code outside of the grid, and the grid starts to bleed into real life,
I
and
think that
so
would
it's
get
him and
really
Cora have to go in and try and stop that with maybe the help of like
Jeff Bridges.
Ghost Kevin Flynn coming in at the last second, kind of like the end of Ghostbusters Afterlife.
I like the idea, but I can also 100% see how the grid bleeding into the real world would potentially look really messy and potentially really not good CGI wise. Because I think the reason why this works so well,
Yeah,
it is 100% CGI. You are on a digital world, whereas if you try to put a digital world in a real world, I think I just don't think it would look very good. But I do like the
it's
idea.
true. That's true. Yeah. It would have to be handled very delicately, and I don't trust this director to do that.
Well, no, I don't either.
Well, we've both rated this a 4 out of 5. Where can you as the audience member go to stream this, Duncan?
Uh,
Oh,
well, since
Disney
it's a
Plus,
Disney
obviously.
property, so obviously Disney Plus, you can rent this from multiple places. What I've been finding actually, so a lot of used bookstores also sell used DVDs and Blu-rays pretty cheap. So you can always check out
It's
there.
very true.
I just never really thought of it, but a couple of people I know have been like, "Hey, I found, cheap copies for this for like $3 or whatever." And it's a Blu-ray still.
I Many of the movies in my physical collection are ones that I found at Goodwills, just because as people, I assume decide to switch over more towards a digital library, they get rid of their physical stuff. Me being the tangible object goblin, I like me some physical stuff, so I'm like, I will take that. Thank you very much.
If you agree with our comments and maybe you want to add your own, obviously let us know. If you don't agree and think the movie is shit, well, A, you're wrong. B, you should tell us why. You can leave comments on Spotify, Instagram, uh, but obviously you're entitled to your own opinion. And yeah, reach out in any way if you'd like. And before we go, we have a couple quick little sections since we talked so long about the movie, which is a good thing. We're just going to quickly go through. The next bit, I believe, is what we call icebreaker audio. Hayden, you want to tell them what that is?
Absolutely. Icebreaker audio is, well, just like it sounds. To have you, the audience, to get to know us a little bit more as human beings instead of robots from Tron. We do some popcorn reading questions and, tell us a little bit about our lives, a little bit about our personalities, and you leave the episode knowing us more as people.
Yeah, so these are questions you may have heard if you like started at a new job or go to a new school or something like that. It's basically just a look into hopefully our psyche and how we make the decisions and judgments that we do. The question. All right. What are 3 items on your bucket list? And that's either physical items, that's either going somewhere, if that's doing something like anything on your bucket list.
I mean, anything?
Yeah, if it's like, oh, I want to go to Greece or own a house or I don't know, run a
I
marathon
feel like
or I don't
we
know.
may have covered something similar
Really?
several episodes ago, but, well, just, what do we want to do when we retire?
That's not the same thing.
I mean, it is similar,
Not the
but
same
it's not
thing.
the same thing. So let me think for a moment.
I mean, I have a list of 30 things I wanted to do before I'm 30, and since then, Freddie, my dog, has shredded that list. But
That's unfortunate.
and I also don't have a whole lot of time left to do that. But let me think.
3 things specifically?
Yeah, again, it can be a thing. It can be an action, like anything you want to say. Something before you die, either doing, owning, experiencing. I would like to see the Northern Lights at some point, and not the like baby versions where we can potentially see them in Washington State. Like, I'd like to actually go to a spot in the world where they are super prevalent and experience it. I think that'd be a really cool. Just yeah, just I think especially like if it was, I think it's either Greenland or Iceland, where you can. I don't know. I think the whole being there in the chill. in the the desolate but like stark beauty, but with like the sky being the way that, or in Alaska, very same thing. Yeah, I think that's on my
Mhm.
list somewhere. What's one for you?
I mean, it might be a simple one, but I would like to own my own home, preferably in a more rural, wooded area. I'd like to, I'd like that kind of an existence.
Yeah, that's definitely on my
If you
list
want something a
somewhere.
bit more fantastical, I would say I would love to go to space in some capacity. I think that'd be amazing. Like, I mean, whether it's, I get drafted into the Martian wars for Elon Musk, or
Yikes.
I well, hey, political jokes.
Yeah. Mhm.
Or, I well, I know that there's also a service where you can essentially pay an astronomical amount of money and you can spend a couple minutes in orbit before go back down towards the surface of Earth. Obviously, I don't know. I from a very young age of consuming things like Star Trek and Star Wars, and I would love to be in zero G in some way. I think that would be very, very cool.
Well, speaking as I've been fairly close to zero G in when you're neutrally buoyant diving, it is pretty fucking dope. And no,
Well, that's not.
it's not. No, I'm saying it's not quite the same thing, but
Yes, it's
it says
similar, but it's not really the same thing.
yes. Um, yes, I would also like to own a house. I think, or at least some sort of home that doesn't have to be a house. But I think yes, owning the space that I live in, where I can do what I want with that space, I think would be pretty amazing, especially in this day and age with everything being the way that it is. Gosh, I wish I still had that list before Freddie
Also,
shredded it. Jesus.
Um, I would tack on to my house thing that I would love to have the secret room behind a bookshelf kind of a thing. Like
Oh, like a
that's
speakeasy
something that
kind of thing?
seemed cool for well, no. Like, I don't know. Like, you pull the book out of the bookshelf swings open and you can go down into like a secretish room or something like that. Like, I don't know. Having that kind of thing has always seemed awesome to me. I would love to have something like that.
Okay. Okay. Um,
Another one for me. I would love to learn how to ride a horse.
what the
I
fuck?
just
What?
that sounds cool. It 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 just sounds cool. I would like to
Okay.
learn how to ride a horse and use that as an excuse to do the whole cowboy thing of going horseback camping.
Oh, that'd be
Maybe
cool.
it's just
That'd
been
be
sold to
cool.
me by Hollywood, and I'll buy that reasoning. But that's always sounded cool.
I would love to learn either. I would either like to know and be fluent in Italian or French. I think either would be super fucking cool.
Really,
I
why
don't.
Italian or French?
I feel like they're the more pretty languages. Like there were I think they're both
I mean,
romance
they are
languages.
literally the romance languages.
Yes,
Yeah,
and both the little bit that I was in uh France before I really liked, and I've uh really, I mean, Italy is on my like list of places that I want to go. So I think A just makes sense, but I think it'd be just super fucking cool to be able to like, I don't know, just randomly like, oh yeah, I can converse with this person in like perfectly fluent Italian, or like, oh,
that'd be cool.
I can go into this Italian restaurant and order and like talk to them in Italian. So folks, that was Icebreaker Audio. If you are, maybe you're curious about any of those bucket list items, or if you have another icebreaker question you think we should be asking each other for next week or any other week in the future, again, reach out in comments anywhere. But before we go, the last little bit that we like to talk about is anything that we've watched recently or are looking forward to watch in any point in the future, either a limited series, TV, or movie. So, Hayden, is there anything you've watched or are looking forward to watch?
I watched a couple things recently, actually, this time.
Nice.
So I went out to the Olympia Film Society and I watched a reshowing of Fifth Element, which is always a good time.
That's such a fun movie. Again, that's like
Uh,
such an original idea.
it is so wacky and singular, and so like it's so both of its time but feels timeless. You
Hmm.
know,
Well, there's several. I mean, there's several people that I know, and that's their favorite movie. I think
I
for
mean
that reason.
it's probably up there for me. It's just a ton of fun. And I'd never seen it in a theater, obviously, and it again super fun in a theater with all the the wacky early 2000s music blaring through all the places. Yeah, it was a good
Mhm.
time. And then just on my own time at home, I rewatched Pacific Rim, which is one of my favorite movies. I'm aware it's not everyone's cup of tea,
It's fun. Again, if you take it for what it
and
is, it's very fun.
I probably like it more than you, but I don't need to get into that discussion now.
Mhm.
And then I was recently over to see our parents, and we watched the Dungeons and Dragons Honor Amongst Thieves movie, or as I like to call it, Medieval Guardians of the Galaxy, which is
Which is
also a lot of fun.
yeah. Everyone I know who saw that was like, "Oh, yeah, I was surprised on how fun and enjoyable that was."
Yeah, I mean, and for context to people in the audience, I'm not a D&D guy. I've literally never played Dungeons and Dragons, never touched Baldur's Gate, whatever it may be. You can walk into that and have a great time having no knowledge whatsoever. It's just goofy and silly and funny. Would not recommend enough if you've never watched it.
Nice. Mm.
I'd still like to see Nosferatu in theaters, but
Yeah, I thought you
my
were gonna watch
schedule
that.
doesn't line up correctly. I had other things going on during the weekend, and then I'm trying to manage my time during the week. I had other things going on. I had a concert to go to. I had some other stuff.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so possibly this coming weekend, I will finally go see it, so I can see Bill Sarsgaard's nasty corpse dick. Apparently,
Apparently, yes.
but that's kind of my end. How about you?
Well, you
You can
referenced
plug
it.
your other podcasts.
Yes, my other podcast, folks, which is Dunk's Movie Corner or Dunk's Movie Corner Pod, or however you want to search for it. It's basically a weekly recap of everything I've seen in a week. So if you've heard that and you listen to this, it's going to sound very similar. Because I watch, sometimes it's 3 movies, sometimes it's 10. Just depends on how busy my week is. At some point, you had referenced that, yes, I rewatched Oblivion, which is really good. From there, I watched Notting Hill, which is the 1999
Oh,
rom-com,
freaking Hugh Grant,
Hugh Grant and Julia Roberts.
I think.
Yes, and
Yeah, I've heard of it.
I talked about it on my episode, but he always like his whole appeal, I feel like, is he's British and he like slightly stumbles into your heart, like he's kind of bumbling. Uh he's never like the suave, like smooth guy. From there, I rewatched Atlantis: The Lost Empire, which again I talked about this a lot more on my episode, but this was a like group watch with
Frickin'
some.
banger.
It's a fucking great movie. But I watched this with like 8 of my work friends at someone's house, and there were 3 dogs there who were all, including Freddie, who were. I think this is a very small space, like the size of like a living room, and it's
Be a loud
packed.
room.
Uh, so the movie's going. There's like 8 people all trying to watch, and then there's 3 dogs that are basically having a fight club while the movie's going on. Um, but the movie is good enough to where the dogs still were never like they were sometimes the center of attention, but you were still actually still interested in the movie. So if you've never seen it, I mean, I feel like anyone who's not a, I think it's a Gen Z, everyone who's not a Gen Z and even some of the Gen Z would probably know this movie's freaking awesome. We already reviewed Treasure Planet, which is from the same era of animation, and I'm actually planning on watching Titan AE, which is also from that generation of animation, this coming week. From there, I went to drop off some movies at our parents' house and pick up Tron because I don't have a copy, and I don't know how just decided to watch it in the middle of the day because I had a couple hours to kill before I had to go to work. But our dad and I watched the second Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, and I will say
Oh, Multiverse of Midness.
the first time I saw this, I gave this like a 1 out of 5 stars. Like this was not good. I thought it was dog shit.
Well,
However, coming
it
back,
doesn't feel like his movie.
well, no, but coming back to this, it is much. I mean, it's not a great movie, but it is much better than I remember it. If you give it another chance at some point, Hayden, the like Sam Raimi horror stuff actually like it comes through a lot more than you think. There is a few bits of the CGI that are clearly not good, and if you compare the
Like
CGI,
his
just hold
eye
on,
in the middle of
Hayden.
his forehead.
Yes, the eyes. Uh, But if you compare it to something like the newest Ant-Man movie, which is also almost entirely CGI that looks horrendous, this is actually pretty good. Are there some acting and writing choices that I don't agree with? Yes, but I mean, it was a 1 out of 5 and it's now up to a 3 out of 5, so it's much better than I thought it was. And then from there, I had never seen it. I watched Now You See Me from 2013, the, like, magician heist con movie. Uh,
I
it
thought
was
you'd seen that before.
no. It was okay. I would call it like a 3, 3.5. Like, there's a lot of big names in it. It's kind of semi-predictable.
You think it warrants a sequel?
Uh, I'm gonna watch the sequel at some point, but yeah, it was alright. It felt very there wasn't a whole lot of, like, what you saw is what you got. It was very surface level, there wasn't a lot of, like, character development or anything, it was just, like, the chase of the magician, like, that was it. There was not a whole lot actually going on. But on the flip side, I ended this week, or however you wanna whatever you wanna say a week is. I When I was at the parents picking up Tron, I also picked up The Count of Monte Cristo from
Oh,
2002.
that's a great movie
It is excellent.
with the Jim Caviezel,
Yes.
I
And
think.
Richard
Yeah,
Harris, aka Dumbledore, and Henry Cavill. Henry Superman is in this,
super
Dumbledore's in
young.
this. Yeah, Henry Cavill's like looks like he's like 17. Um and plays a 17 or
Isn't the
plays a
villain Guy
16-year-old.
Pearce?
And Guy Pearce, yes.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it is 2 hours and 11 minutes. Um, there's some parts where it feels like it's a little long in the hip that it could have been trimmed out a little bit, but, very good. If you haven't seen that, I would really recommend that. It's a story of revenge and redemption and love and, dueling and wealth and pirates and all kinds of it's very good. It has been I think this wasn't even the original one, and I think it's been remade since, but, it's the only one that I've seen. I very much enjoy it. I would give that a 4 out of 5. Not a perfect movie, but definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen it. So that was Tron Legacy. Next week, which we need to do our picker wheel. 1 second. So this is just a little randomizer that chooses a movie that we have a list of like some movies that we have somewhat interest in either watching or doing as a podcast episode. And it looks like next week we are doing Emperor's New Groove.
So again, that was Tron Legacy. If you're interested in watching Emperor's New Groove before you listen to us review it next week, that's available also on Disney Plus. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.